The man quietly runs a pawn shop. It's a tomb he built to bury the past. He was once the National Intelligence Service's top covert agent, but after a failed mission, he watched his pregnant wife die before his eyes. What he doesn't know is that the little girl next door who comes by every day for food will become the one spark that sets off his revenge. His name is Tae-sik. Now he's just a taciturn pawnshop owner. The neighbors are all afraid of him because of his calloused hands and unfathomable gaze. The only one who can break into his world is the little girl, Somi. Somi's mother is a nightclub dancer. She's deep in drug addiction and indifferent to her daughter. Hungry Somi treats Tae-sik's pawnshop like a cafeteria, and him as her only friend. Tae-sik appears cold, but he quietly allows it. Perhaps he sees in Somi the child he lost before it was ever born. That fragile balance is soon shattered by Somi's mother's greed. She steals a package of drugs in the middle of a nightclub deal, and the shipment belongs to the most brutal crime syndicate in the area, run by the brothers Mansuk and Jongsuk. That night, Mansuk comes to their door with his men. They torture Somi's mother with a red-hot iron, demanding to know where the drugs are. Terrified, Somi can only hide the camera bag containing the drugs in Tae-sik's pawnshop. At first, Mansuk sends only 2 thugs, thinking it will be easy. But they're up against a battle-hardened killing machine. A few blows are all it takes to knock them unconscious. But no matter how strong Tae-sik is, he can't ignore Somi and her mother being used as hostages. He hands over the drugs. But Mansuk has no intention of keeping his word. He kills his useless underlings on the spot. They tossed Tae-sik a cell phone, then drove off with Somi and her mother. In an instant, Tae-sik realized it was a setup to frame him. He ran after them with all he had, but could only watch Somi disappear inside the car. Those few short meters became an impossible distance to cross. The next day, Mansuk called and threatened Tae-sik with Somi's life. He forced him to be the fall guy for the deal. The plan was airtight. Tae-sik showed up with the drugs to make the deal with another gang. Meanwhile, Jongsuk tipped off the police, planning to have Tae-sik eliminated. At the scene of the deal, the police suddenly swarmed in. The other boss realized he had been set up. In a rage, he threw the drugs in Tae-sik's face. His men shoved Tae-sik off the building. Luckily, he landed on a safety net at the construction site. Tae-sik had only one thought: catch that gang boss. He was the only lead to Somi. He tore through the net, leapt onto a car, and stopped their getaway vehicle. But when he opened the trunk, he was confronted with the body of a woman whose organs had all been removed. It was Somi's mother. Tae-sik became the prime suspect. In the interrogation room, he said nothing. All he cared about was Somi's safety. A card Somi had drawn for him finally unleashed the fury he had been holding back. He decided to break out. The moment an officer brought in his meal, he struck. Using the handcuffs as a weapon, he struck joints and throats with precision. In just 4.5 minutes, 9 officers were down, and he vanished into the night. The police pulled his file. Only then did they realize what kind of monster they had provoked. Tae-sik was once a top field agent for the National Intelligence Service, skilled in explosives, assassination, and hand-to-hand combat. A walking killing machine. 6 years ago, after his wife was murdered in retaliation, he withdrew from the world. Now Somi has rekindled his extinguished life. He cannot afford to lose her too. He cuts off his long hair and suits up. The killing god codenamed the man from nowhere is back. He tracks down a phone dealer and beats the location of the Wan brothers' hideout, Ant Hill, out of him. He sneaks inside and runs into a sicko, whose men are disposing of a young girl's body. He follows him and ends it with a single shot. The gunshot alerts Mansuk. But Tae-sik is faster, blowing out his hamstring with a precise shot. He calls Jongsuk, and while they're talking, he drives nails into Mansuk's leg bones one by one with a nail gun. On the other end, Jongsuk sounds tough, but secretly gives a vicious order to his men: gouge out Somi's eyes at once. And Mansuk, at Tae-sik's side, has outlived his usefulness too. As Mansuk howls in despair, the entire warehouse goes up in flames. Tae-sik storms Jongsuk's hideout alone. Jongsuk is leisurely fishing, using 2 bloody eyeballs as bait. He rolls a glass jar containing the eyeballs to Tae-sik's feet. When Tae-sik sees what's inside, he thinks Somi is already dead. The last thread of reason inside him snaps completely. Jongsuk keeps mocking him, relying on strength in numbers. The next second, Tae-sik draws and fires. Gunshots and screams blend together. When his magazine runs dry, the thugs rush him with machetes. Tae-sik moves on pure killing instinct now. He snatches a knife and turns the place into a slaughterhouse. Soon, only the strongest bodyguard is left standing. Every slash drew blood, but sheer rage made Taejin faster and stronger. He seized an opening and slit his throat with a single strike. Terrified, Jong-suk scrambled into the armored car and screamed from inside. He thought that pane of glass would keep him safe. But what he didn't understand was how bulletproof glass works. It uses a polymer interlayer to disperse the impact, not that it's completely indestructible. Taesik calmly crouched down and aimed his Glock at the exact same spot on the glass. He pulled the trigger once, twice, 3 times. All he had to do was focus the force of the entire magazine on that single point. After 14 straight shots, cracks began to spread across the glass. Jong-suk's smile froze. The final bullet passed cleanly through the tiny hole and into his skull. With his revenge complete, Taesik's heart died too. He raised his gun and aimed it at his temple. Just then, a familiar voice called out to him. He turned and saw Miso alive. It turned out that just as the doctor was about to begin, the bodyguard Taesik had had a last-minute crisis of conscience and saved Miso. All because Miso had once kindly put a band-aid on him when he was hurt. That tiny act of kindness awakened the humanity he had long lost. He gouged out the doctor's eyes and fooled Jong-suk, but it also nearly drove Taesik into complete darkness. At the end of the film, while being escorted away, Taesik buys Miso a new school backpack. The two survivors hold each other tightly in the street. Both of their lives have been left with wounds that can never fully heal. But in that endless darkness, they became each other's only light, finding warmth in one another and the strength to heal and begin again.